He stole my ideas. The director promoted him on the spot, commenting, "Women just don't think strategically." I smiled and went to the competition. 2 quarters later, everything changed. "Women just don't think strategically," Director Weiss said, his voice echoing through the conference room as he shook Yin's hand. "That's why we need leaders like you to drive our marketing initiatives." I sat there, stunned, watching my coworker bask in the glory of presenting my marketing strategy as his own, the same strategy that had increased our regional sales by 20% last quarter, the same strategy one had spent months developing, analyzing consumer behavior patterns, and testing in 3 different markets. My face burned with a mixture of rage and disbelief, but I forced myself to maintain a professional smile. My name is Olivia Miller, and I'm 31 years old. For the past 4 years, I've worked as a marketing analyst for Gravora Group, one of the largest retail chains in the Southeast. I graduated with honors from Auburn University with a degree in business analytics, and I've always prided myself on my ability to spot market trends before they explode. My cubicle walls were covered in charts, graphs, and consumer data that most people found mind-numbingly boring, but to me, they told stories of opportunity and growth. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was sitting in a conference room in Birmingham, Alabama, watching my career ambitions crumble while Yin received a promotion that should have been mine. The presentation he had just given was flawless because I had written every slide, analyzed every data point, and crafted every recommendation. When our department head called for volunteers to develop a new marketing approach for the upcoming holiday season, I jumped at the chance. I knew this was my opportunity to prove I was ready for the senior analyst position that had been dangling in front of me for months. Yin had approached me 3 weeks earlier, asking if he could collaborate on the project. I thought he was genuinely interested in learning from my research methods, so I shared everything with him. My consumer surveys, my competitor analysis, my pricing strategies, even my presentation template. He said he wanted to understand my process so he could contribute meaningfully to the project. I was naive enough to believe him. As I watched Director Weiss announce Yin's immediate promotion to Senior Marketing Manager, I felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't just about a stolen presentation or a missed promotion. It was about a pattern I had noticed but tried to ignore. The way my ideas somehow became team efforts when they were successful, but remained solely mine when they needed refinement. The way my contributions were praised in private but rarely acknowledged in public forums. The way promising projects were mysteriously reassigned to male colleagues when they showed real potential. The meeting concluded with enthusiastic congratulations for Yin, and I knew that speaking up at that point would only make me look like a sore loser. Growing up in a small town outside of Mobile, I learned early that hard work and intelligence would be my tickets to success. My father worked 2 jobs to put me through college, and my mother constantly reminded me that I would have to work twice as hard as men to get half the recognition. I thought I was being overly pessimistic, but sitting in that conference room, I realized I had been preparing for this exact moment. My relationship with Yin had always been complicated. When he joined our team 18 months ago, I was assigned to help him acclimate to our systems and processes. He was charming, well-connected through his fraternity network, and had an MBA from a prestigious university that opened doors mine apparently couldn't. Initially, I respected his academic credentials and assumed we would be good colleagues. He often asked thoughtful questions about my work, and I appreciated having someone who seemed genuinely interested in the analytical side of retail marketing. Looking back, I realized those weren't questions born of curiosity. They were intelligence-gathering missions. Yin had been systematically learning my methods, understanding my sources, and positioning himself to capitalize on my expertise. The collaboration he proposed for the holiday marketing strategy wasn't collaboration at all. It was a heist with extra steps. In the weeks leading up to the presentation, there had been subtle warning signs I dismissed at the time. Yin started scheduling one-on-one meetings with Director Weiss, supposedly to discuss our department's strategic vision. He started attending industry conferences I had recommended, but somehow never received approval to attend myself. He started using phrases and terminology I had coined in my reports, weaving them into casual conversations as if they were his own ideas. The most telling sign was how he handled our planning sessions. Instead of contributing original ideas, he would ask me to elaborate on mine, pressing me to explain every detail of my reasoning. He recorded our meetings, claiming he wanted to review the strategies later to make sure he understood the nuances. I thought he was being thorough. Now I realized he was building a script. 3 days before the presentation, Yin had asked if he could take the lead on delivering our findings to the executive team. He said his presentation skills were stronger and that we would make a better impression with him as the spokesperson. Wanting to be a team player, I agreed, but insisted he acknowledge my role in developing the core strategy. He assured me my contributions would be clearly highlighted. Instead, I watched him present my work as his own revolutionary thinking. When Director Weiss asked about the analytical methodology, Yin fluently explained concepts I had spent years mastering. When questioned about the market research, he referenced surveys I had designed and conducted. The only time my name came up was when Yin mentioned I had provided valuable data support for his strategic vision. When the meeting ended and people filed out, congratulating Yin on his brilliant work, I felt a shift within me I had never experienced before. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. As I sat in my car in the Gravora Group parking lot, trying to process what had just happened, my hands trembled. I replayed Yin's presentation in my mind, noting every instance where he had taken credit for my work. The sophisticated consumer segmentation analysis I had developed over months of research became his innovative customer profiling system. The pricing optimization model I had built from scratch was now his strategic value framework. Even the specific terminology I had created to describe our target demographics rolled off his tongue as if he had invented it himself. The promotion Yin received wasn't just any promotion. It was the exact position I had been working towards for years. The senior marketing manager role came with a $30,000 salary increase, stock options, and leadership of a team of 12 analysts. More importantly, it was the gateway to the executive track at Gravora Group. Yin would now oversee the implementation of my strategy, taking credit for its success, while I remained in the same position I had occupied for the past 2 years. I pulled out my phone and checked the messages I had received during the meeting. My college roommate, Chloe, had texted me about a job opening at Sunbell Studios, a fast-growing retail chain that was making waves in the industry. 3 months ago, I would have dismissed the idea of leaving Gravora Group, but sitting in that parking lot, I realized I had nothing left to lose there. The next morning, I arrived at work early and found Yin already in his new corner office, talking loudly on the phone about his marketing breakthrough. He saw me through the glass wall and gave me a thumbs up, as if we shared some inside joke. The casualness of his gesture made my blood boil. He genuinely seemed to believe I would be happy to see him succeed with my work. During our department meeting that afternoon, Director Weiss outlined Yin's new responsibilities and praised his strategic thinking capabilities. He announced that Yin would be presenting our holiday marketing plan to the board of directors next month, a presentation that would essentially be my work showcased at the highest levels of the company. Weiss then turned to me and said, "Olivia, I know you're disappointed about not getting the promotion, but I expect you to support Yin in his new role. Your data analysis skills will be valuable to his strategic initiatives." The condescending tone in his voice was unmistakable. I was being relegated to the role of Yin's analytical assistant, supporting his strategic initiatives with my data analysis skills. The message was clear. I was valuable enough to do the work, but not valuable enough to receive credit for it. That evening, I submitted my application to Sunbell Studios, along with a portfolio that included detailed documentation of every project I had worked on at Gravora Group. I was careful to include only the work that was definitively mine, but the portfolio clearly demonstrated the depth of my strategic thinking and analytical capabilities. 2 days later, I received a call requesting an interview. The call from Sunbell Studios came on a Thursday morning, while I was reviewing quarterly sales reports at my cubicle. The voice on the other end belonged to Director Eleanor Monroe, head of marketing strategy for the fastest-growing retail chain in the Southeast. Her tone was professional but warm as she explained that my application had caught her attention. "Your portfolio demonstrates exactly the kind of innovative thinking we're looking for," she said. "Would you be available for an interview next week?" I glanced around the office, where Yin was holding court in the break room, entertaining a group of colleagues with stories about his strategic breakthrough and his plans to transform our marketing approach. The irony was painful. He was literally describing my work to people who had watched me develop it for months. "I would be very interested," I replied, keeping my voice level. "When would be a good time?" We scheduled the interview for the following Tuesday. As I hung up, I felt a surge of excitement mixed with nervousness. Sunbelt had been on my radar for months as a company that was disrupting traditional retail with data-driven strategies and innovative customer experiences. Their corporate culture emphasized analytical thinking and rewarded employees who could back up creative ideas with solid research. Exactly the type of environment where my skills would be valued. Over the weekend, I prepared for the interview with the same meticulous attention to detail I brought to my marketing analysis. I researched Sunbelt's recent expansion strategies, analyzed their competitive landscape, and developed preliminary ideas about their market positioning. I even created a sample marketing plan tailored to their brand identity, demonstrating how my analytical approach could drive growth in their target demographics. The interview took place at Sunbelt's regional headquarters, a modern glass building that felt worlds away from Gravora Group's dated corporate complex. Director Monroe greeted me in the lobby, and I was immediately impressed by her directness and intelligence. Unlike meetings at Gravora Group, where presentations often devolved into political maneuvering, our conversation focused entirely on strategy, data, and results. I'm particularly interested in your consumer segmentation methodology, Director Monroe said, reviewing my portfolio. The depth of analysis here suggests you understand not just what customers are buying, but why they're making those decisions. I explained my approach, detailing how I combine traditional demographic data with behavioral analytics to create granular customer profiles. As I spoke, I could see her genuine interest in the concepts. She asked follow-up questions that demonstrated she understood the complexity of what I was describing. At Gravora Group, this type of analysis led to a 20% increase in regional sales, I explained. But I believe the methodology could be even more effective with a company that's willing to act quickly based on the insights. That's exactly what we need, Director Monroe replied. We're expanding into 3 new markets in the next 6 months, and we need someone who can develop marketing strategies that will give us a competitive edge from day one. The conversation continued for nearly 2 hours, covering everything from inventory optimization to seasonal forecasting. By the end, I knew this was where I belonged. Director Monroe concluded the meeting by outlining their compensation package, which included a base salary $25,000 higher than my current position at Gravora Group, plus performance bonuses tied directly to measurable results. I'll be honest with you, Olivia, she said as we shook hands. We've been watching Gravora Group's recent performance, and we were impressed with the strategic initiatives coming out of their marketing department. We want that kind of thinking on our team. As I drove back to Birmingham, I reflected on the irony of her comment. Sunbelt Studios was interested in hiring me because of the work Yin was now taking credit for. They had been monitoring the industry impact of my strategies, and they wanted to bring that expertise in-house. The thought that Yin had unknowingly helped me secure a better job brought the first genuine smile I had felt in weeks. 3 days after my interview, Director Monroe called with an offer that exceeded my expectations. The position was Senior Strategic Analyst, reporting directly to the executive team, with responsibility for marketing strategy across all Sunbelt Studios locations. The salary was $30,000 higher than my current role, and the benefits package included stock options that could prove extremely valuable as the company continued its rapid expansion. We're prepared to offer you the position immediately, Director Monroe said. When could you start? I asked for the weekend to consider the offer, even though I had already made up my mind. This was my chance to escape the toxic environment at Gravora Group and join a company that would value my contributions. More importantly, it was a chance to prove that my success hadn't been a fluke or the result of luck. It was the product of genuine strategic thinking and analytical expertise. On Monday morning, I submitted my resignation letter to Director Weiss. His reaction was exactly what I expected: surprise, followed by attempts to persuade me to stay, and then thinly veiled annoyance when I refused to reconsider. I hope you realize you're making a mistake, he said, leaning back in his chair with a condescending expression. Sunbelt Studios isn't proven in this market. You're leaving a stable position for an uncertain future. I appreciate your concern, I replied, maintaining my professional composure. Despite wanting to point out that my stable position had become untenable the moment he promoted Yin for stealing my work, but I believe this opportunity is a better fit for my career goals. Yin's reaction was more complex. When he learned of my departure, he seemed genuinely unnerved, perhaps realizing that he would now be expected to generate original strategic ideas without my research to lean on. He made several attempts to meet with me before I left, ostensibly to discuss transition planning, but clearly hoping to extract more ideas he could use after I was gone. "I'm so sorry to see you go," he said during one of these conversations. "We made such a great team. Are you sure there's nothing Gravora Group can do to keep you?" The audacity of his statement was breathtaking. We had never been a team. I had been his unwitting research assistant, while he positioned himself to take credit for my work. But I simply smiled and redirected the conversation to practical matters of the transition. My last 2 weeks at Gravora Group were enlightening in ways I hadn't expected. Without me to provide analytical support, Yin's limitations became apparent to anyone paying attention. His follow-up presentations lacked the depth and insight that had characterized the holiday marketing strategy. And I noticed Director Wei's starting to ask more pointed questions about Yin's methodologies. During my final week, I received an unexpected visit from Madison Shaw, one of the senior analysts who had always been supportive of my work. She closed my cubicle door and spoke in a low voice. "I want you to know that some of us saw what really happened with that presentation," she said. "Yin's been trying to replicate your analysis methods for his new projects, but he clearly doesn't understand the underlying principles. It's becoming obvious that he didn't develop that strategy." Her words were validating, but they also highlighted a larger problem at Gravora Group. The company culture allowed people like Yin to succeed through appropriation rather than innovation, while systematically undervaluing the contributions of people like me. My departure wasn't just about escaping a bad situation. It was about refusing to enable a system that rewarded theft over talent. On my last day, I cleaned out my desk while Yin watched from his office, probably wondering if I would leave behind any research he could use for future presentations. My first month at Sunbell Studios exceeded all my expectations for the position. The company culture was everything Director Monroe had promised: collaborative, data-driven, and focused on results rather than politics. I was given immediate access to the resources I needed to develop comprehensive marketing strategies, and my recommendations were implemented quickly rather than being subjected to endless committee reviews. Within 3 weeks, I had completed a detailed analysis of Sunbell's expansion opportunities, identifying several key markets where we could gain significant competitive advantages. My research revealed that our main competitors, including Gravora Group, were still following outdated marketing models that failed to account for shifting consumer preferences and demographic changes. The most interesting discovery came when I analyzed Gravora Group's recent performance in markets where Sunbell Studios was considering expanding. Despite Yin's promotion and his supposed strategic leadership, their quarterly results showed declining sales in 2 of their 3 largest regions. The holiday marketing strategy that had been so successful under my direction was failing under his implementation, suggesting that Yin lacked the analytical skills to adapt the approach to changing market conditions. Director Monroe was particularly interested in this analysis. During our weekly strategy meetings, she often asked for my perspective on competitor weaknesses and market opportunities. Her questions helped me understand that Sunbell Studios wasn't just interested in competing with established retailers. They were actively seeking to disrupt the entire industry through superior strategic thinking. "Your analysis suggests that Gravora Group is vulnerable in several key markets," she said during one of these meetings. "Do you think their recent strategic initiatives will improve their competitive position?" I chose my words carefully, not wanting to appear vindictive, but still providing a professional and honest assessment. Based on the data I've reviewed, their current approach lacks the analytical rigor needed to maintain market share against more agile competitors. Their strategies seem to be based on outdated assumptions about consumer behavior. What I didn't mention was that those strategies were based on my original research, but Yin's incomplete understanding of the underlying principles was leading to poor execution. He had the superficial presentation skills to impress executives, but he lacked the deep analytical foundation needed to adapt the strategies to changing market conditions. As my second month at Sunbell Studios began, I was assigned to lead a project that would have significant implications for both companies. Director Monroe asked me to develop a comprehensive vendor partnership strategy that would give us competitive advantages in key product categories. The project required extensive research into vendor relationships, contract negotiations, and market positioning. Exactly the kind of complex analytical work I excelled at. During my research, I discovered that several of Gravora Group's most important vendors were becoming frustrated with the company's inconsistent strategic direction and declining sales performance. One vendor in particular, Brick Hollow Labs, had been voicing concerns about their partnership with Gravora Group and was actively seeking alternative retail partners for their premium product lines. Brick Hollow Labs manufactured high-end home goods and seasonal merchandise that represented nearly 15% of Gravora Group's total inventory value. Losing this vendor would create significant gaps in their product offerings and force them to find alternative sources at potentially higher costs. More importantly, if a competitor gained exclusive access to Brick Hollow's products, it would represent a substantial competitive advantage. I spent several days developing a comprehensive proposal for partnering with Brick Hollow Labs, outlining how Sunbell Studios' analytical approach to merchandising could maximize the value of their product lines. The proposal included detailed market analysis, consumer preference data, and projected sales figures that demonstrated our ability to effectively promote and sell their merchandise. The proposal was compelling enough that Director Monroe authorized me to contact Brick Hollow Labs directly to explore a potential partnership. The call to Brick Hollow Labs came on a Tuesday morning in March, exactly 2 quarters after I had left Gravora Group. I had spent weeks preparing for this conversation, developing a partnership proposal that highlighted Sunbell Studios' analytical capabilities and growth trajectory. When I contacted their Director of Business Development, Patricia Larson, her response was immediately enthusiastic. "We've been watching Sunbell Studios' expansion with great interest," she said. "Your growth metrics are impressive, and we're always looking for retail partners who understand the strategic value of premium merchandise." I explained our consumer analysis, detailing how our demographic research had identified significant opportunities in the home goods market that traditional retailers were overlooking. The conversation flowed naturally from market analysis to partnership possibilities, and within 30 minutes we had scheduled an in-person meeting for the following week. What made the conversation particularly satisfying was Patricia's unsolicited comment about their current retail partnerships. Without any prompting from me, she began expressing her frustration with Gravora Group's recent performance and strategic direction. "Our partnership with Gravora Group has become increasingly challenging," she explained. "Their merchandising decisions seem disconnected from market realities, and their sales performance has been disappointing across multiple product categories. We're concerned that their strategic leadership doesn't understand our customer base." I listened carefully, asking thoughtful questions about her specific concerns, while refraining from any direct criticism of my former employer. Instead, I focused on how Sunbell Studios' approach differed from traditional retail strategies, emphasizing our data-driven decision-making and customer-centric merchandising. The partnership we're envisioning would be built on analytical insights, rather than intuition, I explained. "We believe that understanding consumer behavior at a granular level is essential for maximizing the value of premium products like yours." Patricia's enthusiasm was palpable as we discussed potential collaboration models. By the end of the call, she had committed to presenting our proposal to Brick Hollow's executive team and expressed optimism about moving forward quickly. As I hung up the phone, I realized this conversation represented more than just a business opportunity for Sunbell Studios. It was the beginning of Yen's comeuppance for stealing my work and Director Wei's reckoning for promoting incompetence over excellence. The strategic thinking they had dismissed was about to cost them their relationship with their most valuable vendor. The partnership deal with Brick Hollow Labs was finalized 6 weeks later, and the announcement sent shockwaves through the retail industry. Sunbell Studios gained exclusive access to Brick Hollow's premium product lines, while Brick Hollow gained a retail partner capable of sophisticated market analysis and strategic merchandising. For Gravora Group, the loss represented a devastating blow to their inventory strategy and financial projections. Brick Hollow's products had generated millions in annual revenue, and replacing that inventory would require finding alternative suppliers at significantly higher costs. More importantly, losing exclusive access to popular premium brands would make it difficult for Gravora Group to compete in the high-margin market segments that were becoming increasingly crucial for retail profitability. I learned about Gravora Group's reaction through industry contacts and former colleagues who reached out after the announcement. According to Madison Shaw, who still worked there, the executive team was in crisis mode, trying to understand how they had lost such an important vendor relationship. Apparently, Director Weiss had demanded a full investigation into the circumstances surrounding Brick Hollow's departure, and Yin had been tasked with developing a strategy to win back the partnership. The irony was delicious. Yin was being asked to solve a problem his incompetence had helped create, using analytical skills he had never truly possessed. The whole situation is a mess, Madison told me during a coffee meetup. Yin keeps presenting these elaborate plans for recouping vendors, but it's all superficial presentation without any real analytical foundation. It's becoming obvious to everyone that he doesn't understand the strategic principles he claims to have developed. Meanwhile, at Sunbell Studios, the partnership with Brick Hollow was generating immediate results. Our first quarter with their products exceeded projections by 18%, validating both our consumer analysis and our merchandising strategies. Director Monroe was so pleased with the results that she authorized the expansion of my team and increased my budget for vendor development initiatives. The success was professionally satisfying, but the personal vindication was even sweeter. Every percentage point of growth represented proof that my analytical methods were sound and my strategic thinking was valuable. Yin might have taken credit for my work at Gravora Group, but the results spoke for themselves about who truly understood retail marketing strategy. Reflecting on my career transformation over the past 8 months, I realized that Yin's betrayal had ultimately been a gift. His theft had forced me to leave a toxic environment and find a company that valued my contributions. His incompetence was now demonstrating, in the most public way possible, that he had never been capable of the strategic thinking he claimed to possess. Looking ahead, I knew this was just the beginning. Both of my success at Sunbell Studios and the challenges facing Yin and Director Weiss at Gravora Group. They had chosen politics over performance, and the market was about to teach them the true cost of that decision. In the end, talent had prevailed over theft, and strategic thinking had triumphed over superficial charm, exactly as it should in any industry that rewards genuine competence.